red paper. Now she gets into the different beginning of the movie, and I don't think we've touched upon this in the podcast yet. But Mark Hamill, in a recent interview, and I remember this originally coming out on some of the websites, the opening of the film was going to start with the logo and the crawl and the starfield, and then it was going to be a severed hand clutching Anakin's, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, tumbling through space. The hand would then drop into the atmosphere of Jakku, burn out on its way through the atmosphere, and then end up sticking in the ground where some alien came by to pick it up and took off with it. And then the movie would start the way that it did. I always hated this idea. And before I saw the movie, I remember I was talking to a few people who had seen the film, and they wouldn't tell me how the film opened. But there was still a lot of speculation that the movie still opened this way. And I'll tell you what, I was really worried. I remember, and I will always remember, going and seeing the movie for the first time, and the only thing that sort of put my fears to rest was I had one person that said, if you're worried about what you've heard in regards to the scene, don't worry, the opening scene's great. But I still wasn't sure that the movie wasn't going to start with this pan down from the starfield with this severed hand floating through space, because just the amount of exposition and explanation as to how that happened some 30 years after Return of the Jedi, not to mention the fact that how does it end up falling onto Jakku? How do you make that happen? It just seemed like a really, really asinine idea. Now, the editor, Mary Ann, talked about the different beginning, Luke's severed wrist holding the lightsaber, why they decided to go against it. The main reason was because many people, they say, hadn't seen the original trilogy. And this would have been very confusing. The editor also revealed that they reshot the opening scene and added Poe's humorous lines while speaking to Kylo Ren. They did that to soften the tone of the opening scene with the villagers being massacred, and Star Wars has always been tongue-in-cheek during hard and difficult situations like this. Now, I'm almost hesitant to go and point this out, because once you notice it, it's hard to unnotice it. But I'm going to point it out anyway. So if you don't want to know basically a continuity error in the film, then I would say skip ahead about a minute or two. Okay, that's your warning. The beginning of the film, when Kylo Ren walks off of his command shuttle, if you pay attention to his mask, you know that very, very front flat piece of his mask opens up when he takes the helmet off. That happened, right? And it opened up, flips up, and he takes his helmet off. The very opening shots of the movie of Kylo Ren, the mask isn't fitted right. If you look when he's talking to Lor San Tekka, when he's talking to Max von Sydow's character, you'll see that flat mask piece that opens is actually positioned up too high, revealing this black lip, if you will, down below, where usually the mask is flush with the bottom of the other part of the mask. There's actually this gap where the mask is shifted up too far. And I remember seeing it in the theater thinking, I think I'm seeing a continuity error here, because when they do get to Poe being taken over to Kylo Ren and they have that exchange, who talks first? You talk first, I talk first. The mask is back down. It's shifted back down on his face where it needs to be. Now I have my answer. They reshot that scene. But it's clear that when they shot it the first time, that mask wasn't positioned in the right spot, which drives me nuts as a viewer, because if I noticed that as a fan, how in the world do they not realize that when they're shooting the film? Or are they not just paying that close? Why isn't there a continuity director going, Kylo Ren's mask is shifted up too high in these opening shots and it doesn't look like the rest of it looks? I thought maybe it was like a mood thing. I thought maybe it moved with his mood, and when he got angry, or it moved down, or. All right, let's get to more of this. See, they softened the tone, the opening scene with the villagers being massacred, always been tongue-in-cheek. All right, Rey and BB-8. On Rey. At one point, Rey's introduction was not entirely without words, as in the final movie. They wanted to underline her loneliness. And after listening to John Williams' theme on Rey, they decided to make the introduction with no words at all. And I remember when I got the soundtrack, because I got the soundtrack before the movie came out, and I remember the first time I heard Rey's theme, and I just fell in love with it. I probably listen to this once a day, easy. I just absolutely love this theme. I love the way it builds up, how it just gets bigger and larger, how mysterious and full of adventure and wonder it has in it. It's become one of my all-time favorite Star Wars themes ever. On Kylo Ren, the editor, Marianne Brandon, said that originally they had unmasked him much earlier in the film. During the first scene with Snoke, Adam Driver was actually without a helmet. A CGI helmet was added later so that the revelation would happen at a later point. This made the character more menacing. Also, the scene where Kylo talks to Vader's mask initially appeared much earlier in the movie. They moved it to later because it made him more insecure earlier in the film. It was really important to them to make the audience believe that during Han's death, there was still a chance for Kylo to turn to the light and spare his father. On Maz Kanata, Brandon touched upon Maz and her importance to the story. The initial plan was that Maz's attention is on Rey and how she is a Jedi. At some point, Maz had force powers and even some magical abilities that were scrapped, and they decided to focus on Finn so that you won't hate him after he leaves our heroes. There was a deleted scene that didn't make it onto the Blu-ray, but hopefully it gets released later, where they're down in the catacombs, if you will, of Maz's castle. Basically, when Rey leaves, I don't want to have anything to do with that lightsaber, and she takes off. There's a deleted scene, if you watched it, of Han Solo and Chewie and Finn down when the stormtroopers show up. Originally, I think there's a deleted scene of this, Maz Kanata actually uses force powers and brings the roof down on top of the stormtroopers. So obviously, if she has force powers, not meaning she's a Jedi, but the initial plan was that Maz's attention is on Rey and how she's a Jedi. So how Rey is a Jedi. So if they bring it back, maybe they'll bring it back, her force powers in Episode 8. On the force back scene, another interesting topic that was brought up was, of course, the force back scene. According to Marianne, the scene is not similar to the Dagobah cave scene from Empire Strikes Back. There, Luke went to face his fear and learned a lesson. In the force back scene, Rey faces a new world that she was never a part of. According to her logic, the lightsaber does call to Rey, but it's more like she's looking for it, not the other way around, since she will eventually become a Jedi. Marianne mentioned about the other scenes that were never filmed for the Force Back vision. One of them was Rey walking down the Bespin corridor and seeing Vader cutting off Luke's hand. Then she turns and sees a version of Snoke with a little boy, but these scenes never made logic and they scrapped them. She said something very interesting. In the original script, the Force Back scene was intended to be a ride through the history of Star Wars. It was a very early draft when Michael Arndt was still attached to the script. And I've heard other podcasters commentate on how they felt like the lightsaber was telling its own story in that Force Back scene. And that makes sense to me. Also, for those that collect the action figures, we've talked about this before, how the Constable Zuvio character was a character that was chosen by Hasbro out of a list of characters before the movie was in its final edit. So they had all these characters from the film. And basically, the toy company, long before they were done with the final version of the film, got to choose which characters they were going to put out in the first run of the action figures. There was it wasn't a Force Awakens one because they differentiated. There were some toys that included Force Awakens characters, but didn't have Force Awakens on the box. So, for example, I actually have it. There's a small Scout Walker toy that was released with the Force Awakens that came with the First Order Stormtrooper. That Scout Walker had the Star Wars logo, but did not say the Force Awakens on it. So it was a part of the Force Awakens line, but not necessarily something you'd see in the film. They did release a Luke Skywalker in his Bespin outfit and a Darth Vader. And the speculation is that you were supposed to see that scene. You were supposed to see Rey's perspective of Luke fighting Darth, and therefore having the Bespin outfit, Star Wars The Force Awakens Luke, as an action figure made sense from a marketing and toy sales standpoint. For Han's death scene, Brandon said that such a powerful character like Han Solo should go so that there will be a place for developing new strong characters. And, of course, most of us know that Harrison Ford was going to be one and done doing these movies, and he wanted to be killed off in Return of the Jedi. So, on how powerful Obi-Wan is, according to George Lucas, during the fans' questions, Marianne did a surprise revelation. She was talking about different levels of Jedi. Some are strong with the Force, some not so much. But if you want to become a Jedi, you should go through special training. Then she revealed that during J.J. Abrams' discussions with George Lucas, the father of the franchise, made a shocking reveal to Abrams that Obi-Wan Kenobi is not actually strong with the Force. He was average. On the strange Leia and Rey scene, at the end of the movie, many people noticed that after Han's death, instead of hugging Chewbacca, Leia hugs Rey, who she never met. J.J. Abrams already revealed in the past that this was a mistake. Brandon added that in previous drafts, Leia knew who Rey was. They scrapped that since they didn't have any logic because we don't know who Rey is. Okay, now bookending this conversation with this Q&A. Daisy Ridley was asked in an interview not too long ago, and as a matter of fact, I might, if you give me just a moment, I believe in this audio she makes the comment from the MTV Movie Awards that we can revisit. I'm pretty sure it's here. Let's go ahead and give it a listen here.
Have you seen the Rogue One trailer yet,
yes.
by the way? Amazing.
It looks great.
Oh, my God.
So she talks about
really
the Rogue One
good.
trailer.
Now, what do you make of these theories going around that Felicity may play Rey's mom?
I mean, I'm not being funny, you guys, but just because she's white and got brown hair, do you
Not
know
my
what
theory.
I mean? Like, it doesn't mean she's my mum.
Right.
I also don't know if that will work out time-wise, because I'm trying to think how much time has gone.
Right.
I don't know.
Do you know? I mean,
Maybe she is.
Oh, whoa. Now, do you know who Rey's parents are?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
When did you find out?
When we were filming Seven.
Okay. And that helped inform the character a little bit?
I think the amazing thing about Seven is that Finn and Rey don't come from anywhere and they find a place. And so to me, it's funny that people think it's so important, because I guess it is, but I don't really think it is, because regardless of where you come from, where you go is the thing. You're moving forward and you can make a family, you can find people you love. And so I think the progressions Rey is making and the people she's meeting and the relationships she's making now are kind of more important than where she comes from. But that's just me.
Do you have a sense of tonally what this is versus Episode 7 in terms of whether it's darker or whatever?
I think it is darker.
Is it?
Yeah.
And coming into your own Jedi powers, a little fun to kind of maybe get a little more Jedi action?
I don't know if I am a Jedi.
Okay, not
I don't
yet.
think you are. I don't think I am.
Okay.
And also we
It's a
had
work
this
in
debate
progress.
about whether like Leia is, because she uses her Force powers.
Right, she's got the Force.
Just
but
because she's not like, oh, I'm going on an adventure like Luke. Doesn't make her any less forceful.
I feel like we could have this argument for hours.
So that certainly seemed pretty definitive that at least Daisy Ridley knows, again, who Rey's parents are. But I also think that they left it ambiguous enough to where they could go and change that depending on what they want to do moving forward. I mean, look, based off all the fan theories that we've put forward, that I've put forward over the course of 50 podcasts, I think it's pretty clear that they can really take her character wherever they wanted it to go. But it does seem pretty definitive that at least she was told who her parents were. And if you listen to John Williams, he says that, at least one of them is Luke Skywalker. So we'll use this to transition over to some Episode 8 news.
The dark side.
So John Boyega has been doing a series of different interviews as of late. The first one I have here comes from Variety magazine, and in it he's asked about the developing romance of Finn and Rey in The Force Awakens, and how is that romance evolving into the next chapter. And I didn't believe there was a romance. I mean, I felt at the end of the movie when he's still passed out after getting slashed by Kylo, she kind of puts him in the friend zone with "we'll meet again" and then takes off. So there is going to be